Warning: the following vlog will contain geekery of a highly self-indulgent nature. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello chaps and chapettes. So, as you've probably gathered by now, I am a fairly massive Doctor Who fan, and one of the big criticisms that's levelled at the show these days, and TV and film in general, is that of sloppy writing and the use of Deus Ex Machina. Yes, I say machina, not machina. Both are probably correct. Scone, scone, tomato, tomato. Nobody says potato. Deus Ex Machina is a plot-solving, game-changing device that a writer uses to solve a problem that they've created for themselves. Let's face it, Doctor Who is the most prominent proponent of this, and it has led in recent times to several long-term fans of the series falling out of love with it, or claiming that they've outgrown it. So, do they have a point? The Doctor is a hyper-intelligent alien who, while not being immortal, if he does die, will just regenerate. He travels around in the TARDIS, which can go anywhere in time and space, and is itself effectively indestructible. And he has a sonic screwdriver, which can do pretty much whatever the plot calls on it to do. Not would, though, of course, that would be stupid. So that's 3 Deus Ex Machinas rolled into one right from the get-go. The show's writers as well are very fond of using a Deus Ex Machina to get around problems that they've created for themselves. Here are several glaring examples, starting with the Russell T Davies era. Boomtown. Pretty forgettable episode, but having set up the dramatic tension brilliantly, Russell T Davies answers the complex question, what do they do with Margaret, with a Deus Ex Machina. This is a theme that continues in Parting of the Ways, in which, once again, he sets up a very difficult problem and then solves it with a Deus Ex Machina. The same Deus Ex Machina he did the last time. Tooth and Claw. The werewolf is defeated with the Koh-i-Noor diamond, which is introduced in the last act, and is then drowned in lycanthropic energy. What? I am skipping over some absolutely golden pieces of television writing here, just to make a point, but that's the subject of another video. Stick with me. The Satan Pit. Oh my god, this was a good two-parter, but slightly fudged at the end by the oh-so-conveniently placed gun, which might as well have, in case of sudden demonic possession, break glass written on it. Love and Monsters. There is often one episode per series that we just don't like to talk about. For me, however, it's Fear Her, which basically is one giant Deus Ex Machina in order to get David Tennant to light the Olympic flame. That, along with episodes like Bad Wolf, I think are gonna age horribly. Doomsday. This one gets a pass on the grounds that it isn't actually a Deus Ex Machina that solves the problem. Season 3 is pretty good until Last of the Time Lords. Now this is the quintessential Deus Ex Machina script. In true Russell T Davies style, build up the dramatic tension nicely for 40 minutes, and all of the previous episode, and then solve it in the last 5 with magic! So many Russell T Davies scripts have elements of this, but this is certainly the worst, most blatant example. The Poisoned Sky. This one was just clumsily handled. Atmosphere magically fixed again in the last 5 minutes. Journey's End. So, all you need is 6 people to fly the TARDIS at one time, and it can actually do anything. The Next Doctor. Giant fracking robot. Never, I think, has there been a more literal interpretation of Deus Ex Machina. The End of Time. Oh, strap in for this one. How to bring the Master back? Enter the cult of plot contrivance. How's he going to take over the world? Magic! How do you round off a character like this? Unsatisfyingly. But when you compare these things to things like Midnight, or Father's Day, or Turn Left, it tends to speak to the idea that While Russell T Davies can write drama and suspense brilliantly, he can't write sci-fi for toffee. Now, you could argue that The Big Bang 2 constitutes a massive Deus Ex Machina, but bonkers though it is, most of the elements, if not all of them, in that story, the ones that saved the day at least, were introduced well in advance. And before you peg me down as a Stephen Moffat fanboy, the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. The lighthouse just happens to lead the Lancaster bomber home. Just cause. I'm not going to do any more now, but even so, that's a lot already. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. First off, it's not the only show that uses Deus Ex Machinas in this fashion. Star Trek, Superman, Captain Scarlet, the list goes on. But I say again, it doesn't matter. You've probably picked up by now, though, that the problem I had with these episodes is not that they had Deus Ex Machinas in, but that they weren't dramatically satisfying. The reason, for me at least, that Stephen Moffat seems to have written less unsatisfying episodes is he seems to understand the concept of Chekhov's gun. Anton Chekhov once said that if you're going to have a gun shoot somebody in Act 3, it's got to be hanging over the mantelpiece from Act 1. It's foreshadowing at its very basic. Deus Ex Machinas are not the problem. Dramatists as far back as Euripides have been using them. No, the problem is the improper use of them. Unless you're writing tragedy, it's generally fairly likely that most of the main characters will survive, even if they are written by Joss Whedon. I don't subscribe to the idea that there are only 5 or 7 or 9, depending on whatever your minimalist leanings are, plots out there which are just endlessly recycled. But I do think that engaging in original storytelling can come from how well a writer takes the format of problem, escalation, solution, and weave it into an ongoing narrative, like in a TV show. We can be fairly certain that our heroes will prevail, but it's how they do it that's the interesting part. I suppose it comes down to whatever you feel is more important in a story. Good ideas or narrative skill. So, in conclusion, yes, Doctor Who does use a lot of Deus Ex Machinas, but that doesn't stop it from being a good show. Let me know what you think. And with one brief sign-off, the video is over.